The outlaws had marched their captives through a tangled nest of dark forest. They had emerged at a clearing overlooking a deep ravine. A small stream cut the ground in two and spilled down into misty depths. Around the edge of the clearing, in the shape of a crescent moon, stood a perimeter of stones and stumps. The moon was bright and high, but even with the yellow glow, the outlaws stabbed long torches into the ground. The flames danced on the wind, their shadows twirling like they were locked in some eternal midnight ball. Sir Hyle Hunt knelt on tired legs by the cold creek. Two men in dirty, tattered surcoats loomed over him, watching his every move. He plunged trembling hands into the steady water and gulped. His throat was dry. He cupped his hands and dipped them again. This time he splashed his face, washing sweat from his brow and cheeks and hair. The dripping water ran down along his throat and neck, running over where the rope had left a burning, itching red mark that still felt raw. The band of brothers parted, and the thing that had been Lady Catelyn Stark, now called Lady Stoneheart, stepped forward and extended her pale right hand. Two men helped her rise onto the tallest stump. She threw back her gray hood and pointed to the ground. "Here," the gaunt one dressed in dark red ragged robes said. "This is where the gods shall judge kingslayers and—" he paused, "and oath-breakers." Sir Jaime Lannister stood with his head down, surrounded by a gang of men. The Kingslayer's shoulders were held in place by two separate hands. Beside him stood Brienne of Tarth like a silent sentinel. Her hands were bound. Only the tall trees dwarfed her height. Beside her stood Pod the Squire, looking nervously about. A cold wind cut through Hyle Hunt. He stood up. The world had grown quiet. Only the sound of trickling water and the beasts and bugs of the forest filled his ears. "Sir Jaime Lannister," Thoros of Myr sighed, "for the murder of Aerys II Targaryen and Robb Stark, king in the north, you stand accused of kingslaying." "He didn't murder King Robb, my lady," Brienne pleaded. "Please!" "I had no hand," Jaime Lannister said before a fat fist struck his jaw. The Kingslayer spit blood onto the grassy battleground and lowered his head. "For the failure to free Sansa Stark and find Arya Stark, and for taking up arms again against houses Tully and Stark, you stand accused of oath-breaking." "I ended the war. I brought peace to the river," Jaime explained. Another fist struck him. Hyle watched the Kingslayer closely. Jaime lowered his head farther than before. "And for the crippling of Bran Stark, you stand accused of breaking Guestright and breaking King Robert's peace." Jaime closed his eyes. "You have chosen trial by combat," Thoros motioned for Jaime to be pushed forward. "Give the bastard his sword." Hyle watched as Jaime Lannister was thrust forward, tripping over small stones. The Kingslayer used the blade to regain his balance. The crowd mumbled and laughed. Stoneheart's greedy eyes never blinked. They never looked away from the man she seemed to hate. "My lady?" Thoros turned to Stoneheart. "Brienne," she seemed to rasp. The sound was wet and wretched. "Prove your—" She coughed an awful sound. "Prove your innocence, my lady," Thoros spoke to Brienne. As her champion, the man who had been a Red Priest pointed to Stoneheart. "No, I will not fight him," Brienne cried out. "He is guilty of many crimes, but he has paid dearly. I know that to be true, and I will help him make things right. My lady, I beg you, please let us go." Stoneheart's terrible mouth mocked her in laughter. I will bring your daughters back. I promise you. We will help free River Run. I will prove I keep faith with House Stark. But I need Sir Jaime to do that. Brienne begged Lady Stoneheart. She went to one knee. Brienne, Jaime said quietly, take your sword and be done with this. Hyle saw that for once in his life, it seemed, Sir Jaime Lannister looked ready to die. This was not the man he had seen years ago in tourneys and jousts. That was a true knight, Hyle remembered. No, my lord, I will not. Tears filled Brienne's big eyes. There you have it, Lady Stark. Or do you prefer I call you by this new name, Stoneheart? Jaime threw down his sword. How can we let the gods decide when men, Jaime smiled at Brienne, and women refuse to fight your war for you? Hang me if you must, but free these three. They have done nothing wrong. She'll hang you both then, the one in the yellow cloak laughed. Them two as well. He pointed at Pod and then to Hyle. Stoneheart was pulling up her hood and tightening the thick cloak about her thin body when Hyle stepped forward, looking toward the Kingslayer. I will fight for you, Lady Stoneheart. I will take the Maid of Tarth's place. Stoneheart's eyes pierced him. Hyle, no, do not do this, Brienne shouted. 4 men were holding her back. Let the gods decide. That's what the Kingslayer demanded, wasn't it? Hyle smiled. But one request. He turned to Stoneheart. You, my lady, judge me as you would Lady Brienne. If I win, she is innocent. So is her squire, and so am I. We are free, and you will return our horses, armor, and swords, and you will let us depart unmolested. Promise me, or you can risk defying the gods. Jaime laughed. A murmur spread through the crowd. Stoneheart raised her hand. She looked at Thoros and nodded. Very well, Thoros tossed Hyle the sword Oathkeeper. Hyle caught it with bound hands. The Valyrian steel was light and deadly. He gripped it and turned it. It seemed to make a sound, and the song it sang was sorrowful. 2 men rushed him and cut the ropes from his wrists. They wore swords themselves and 2 long dirks. Hyle considered slashing them, grabbing the still, and tossing it to Jaime and Brienne. He wondered how fast he could move now that his hands were free. Oathkeeper would tear these men in 2, he had no doubt. They could cut their way through the line and make for the horses tied to the trunks of the trees. If they pushed the horses until dawn, it might give them enough time to outrun the outlaws and find their way back into Jaime's camp. Would there be time to save Pod, though? Hyle realized. Hyle looked to Brienne. Her hungry eyes watched the Kingslayer only. No, he told himself. There seems to be no chance for that. I have no choice. I must fight the Oathbreaker, or we all die. Will she see me as she sees him? Hyle asked himself. One day, mayhaps. What will she see in me when I strike down Sir Jaime? The man who saved her and her squire, or the man who murdered her friend? Hyle tried to push the thoughts from his mind. Gods, let her love me one day. Brienne gasped. Hyle turned toward a wailing on the wind. A flash blinded his sight as the Kingslayer's sword slashed at the distance between them. It glowed like white-hot fire against the black sky. Hyle Hunt brought Oathkeeper up and caught Jaime Lannister's blade just inches from his face. Stupid boy, the Kingslayer smirked. The woods fell silent, ringing off the old stones and white stumps. Only the clash of steel filled the night. Hello and welcome to Planetos Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the fans of George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire and HBO's Game of Thrones. I'm one of your hosts, Travis. You can find me on Twitter at Sir_Travis.
I'm another one of your hosts, Brett. You can find me on Twitter at HomelyPillow.
And I'm your third host, Micah, and you can find me on Twitter at Micah_UpClark.
In today's episode, we celebrate the first anniversary of Micah's excellent theory, A Tragedy of Three Nights, involving Sir Hyle Hunt, Sir Jaime Lannister, and Brienne of Tarth, as well as Lady Stoneheart and the Brotherhood of Without Banners, which we're going to talk a lot about tonight. Now, this theory was first relayed by Micah last year in our 27th episode, Three Miners Walk into a Bar. It was posted on Reddit on August 13th, 2019 by Micah, and we'll link the original post in the show notes. Now, during that 27th episode, we talked about Sir Hyle Hunt, and this was a theory that kind of knocked me and Brett for a loop, and we were like, whoa, this is a pretty cool theory. After that episode, Micah sat down, he put some more details to it, he fleshed it together, posted it to Reddit, and it got a lot of discussion on Reddit, on Twitter. We've had numerous conversations about this theory since then. We still talk about it. I mean, gosh, I think last week people were talking about A Tragedy of Three Nights. So we just want to get back into it tonight. We want to talk about it. We want to talk about what we might change with the theory. Maybe some new information has come to light. Maybe a member of the fandom has made a point that changes our view on the theory. So Micah, I think the first thing that we should do is we should start with you telling us about the theory and the details of the theory. So take it away.
I'd be much obliged. Thank you, Travis. So, A Tragedy of Three Nights starts out reminding you about where everyone is to start. We have Brienne finding Jaime in the village of Pennytree, and then luring him away to the Brotherhood Without Banners, where Lady Stoneheart waits, so as she can pass judgment onto Jaime Lannister. And Stoneheart is forcing Brienne to do this because she also has Sir Hyle Hunt and Podrick Payne captured, threatened to be hanged if Brienne does not do this. What occurs here is that Jaime is going to call for a trial by combat, and he's going to name himself as his own champion. And what I've laid out here in my theory is that Stoneheart will, of course, name Brienne as her champion, because Brienne has betrayed her. This can prove her worth by killing the Lannister that she sent Brienne with 2 books ago. But instead, Sir Hyle Hunt is going to offer himself up in her place. Either because he sees Jaime's love for Brienne and Brienne's love in return and feels a form of jealousy, or Hyle Hunt would not want to see Brienne fall to Jaime Lannister, and out of some form of twisted compassion for her, he offers himself up. The fight would take place in which I believe that Hyle Hunt would be killed, either through his own overestimation of his abilities, because he has been beaten to where Brienne can barely recognize him at the end of A Feast for Crows, and his own underestimation of Jaime's possible prowess. Or even perhaps Sir Hyle overestimates terrain and falls, has a flummox. Nonetheless, I believe that in the end, Sir Jaime Lannister will prevail and Hyle Hunt will lie slain, and Jaime's victory will end in his freedom. And in the past, this was where one of my major holes would be how would Stoneheart allow Jaime to be free? And there is a change, an addition that I would make that we will discuss later on. But that is the overview of my theory in its simplest form, and we will discuss it from here on out.
I just like we said last year when you first talked about it, after your then guest appearance on episode 27. But then when you posted it to Reddit, I really like this theory for a number of reasons. I think the first thing for me, and maybe we can talk a little bit about this to start our discussion, is that if this theory comes true, then all three Lannisters will have been judged in a trial by combat. And what's interesting is the fact that, and I agree with you, I think Jaime Lannister would win in this combat because, one, his story has more growth, an arc to complete. Jamie Lannister's not gonna die by the hands of Hyle Hunt. So I think that's most likely why he would survive, why George would let him live. We also know that Jamie has been training, so there's that there would be that great twist, that great reveal for the characters. We know Jamie is training. We know Jamie is perhaps becoming more capable of fighting in a combat. They don't know, so I think that would be a great twist to see on the page. But back to my point about the Lannister siblings, only Tyrion would be found guilty, right? It's always going to be his luck to fail. And I think coming back to Westeros and finding out that Cersei had a trial by combat, and of course she won because Sir Robert Strong, this monster of a man, this monster
it's
of
in the name.
Yeah, right. He's going to win. We know potentially that based on your theory that Jamie wins his trial by combat, and of course here's Tyrion thinking, as always, I'm the one that can never overcome my siblings. And so I think there's a great symmetry there that will just potentially create an even deeper chasm between the Lannister children. So I like it just based on that foundation that all three Lannisters will have had trials by combat.
No, I totally agree. And I think there's so many similarities between the journey that Jamie and Brienne took compared to compared to Hyle Hunt and Brienne, and the way they kind of treated Brienne like along the way. I mean, I don't know. The payoff with Jamie training, because Hyle Hunt's sort of like a Jamie that hasn't lost his hand, and he's sort of right now. He's had that Jamie with that Jamie treatment when he was in Riverrun, where he's just malnourished and been shackled to like a wall for I forget how long, but I don't know. There's just a lot there. So
yeah, in going back and rereading the Brienne chapters that Hyle was in, and then I guess it's Brienne 8 is the final chapter in A Feast for Crows when they're brought before Lady Stoneheart, and it's described that Hyle. I've got Kyle Condon on my mind from the Radio Westeros TWOW primer. Hyle he's barely recognizable. He's had the shit beat out of him. His face is bruised. It's swollen. Brett, this reminds me of Sir Glendon Ball in The Mystery Knight. He had the absolute crap beat out of him. He was tortured, and then he was put up to joust against Daemon. And, that obviously worked out well for Sir Glendon, but here it's probably not going to work out very well for Sir Hyle.
That's a good catch. I wonder if there's more parallels, if that was even purposeful. But
yeah, I mean, I think it'll depend on how the trial would go down, what occurs. Like if and we should let the listeners know, that the cold opening that they heard was written and framed in the context that, one, Micah's theory is true, but also we wanted to kind of set the mood and the place where something like this had happened. And we presuppose that Hyle Hunt is physically recovered. He's got a wound around his neck, and he's not completely 100%, but he's ready and willing to battle Sir Jaime. If he goes the route of Glendon Ball, Glendon was like, what was he, Brett? Like propped up on his horse. I mean, he just been dragged out of the dungeon.
And he was like missing fingernails.
Oh yeah. So it could be very bad. I mean, Sir Hyle could be in a really bad state and still demand that he'll fight Jaime. So it's not well.
If he chooses out of love for Brienne, then he would certainly do it as he's like just gotten awake. Be like, yeah, I'll do it just as soon as my rib cage gets back and set.
Well, and he's doing that in Brienne 8. He's got a noose around his neck. He's had the crap beat out of him. His face is swollen, and he's yelling. He knows that Brienne is being asked to bring Sir Jaime to Lady Stoneheart, and it says Sir Hyle was shouting that he would kill Jaime Lannister, but the hound cuffed him across the face and shut him up. He had donned the helm again.
For it.
Absolutely. So, Sir Hyle is willing to fight Jaime. Now, you got to ask yourself, you're in a situation where there's a noose around your neck, and you're trying to get free of potentially dying. So maybe you would say that, maybe you would call that
Hyle
out.
Could totally do that. That would totally be in character for him. He is an asshole. Yeah. This is in no way to romanticize Hyle Hunt in any form. His arc in Feast for Crows is becoming 2% less of an asshole, but he's still an asshole.
Absolutely. He is an asshole. But I think your theory lays out very well that Brienne could find herself in a lot worse company than Sir Hyle. Yes, he wants her hand in marriage for her land and titles and all of that, but he's not trying to take her unwillingly.
Yeah. He mentions that he could take her as a quote real man unquote would take her, and then in the middle of the night, and then she says no, and he listens.
Yeah.
Which puts him up above most other male characters in Westeros.
And he doesn't seem to be afraid of her. So I don't think like that, like Brienne saying you're going to be a eunuch in the morning if that happens. I don't think he was like threatened by that. I think he just listened because he's
understandably cautious.
I mean, probably because he is very observant, but he's very confident in his skills.
And
he
saw her take down the 3 brave companions as well, and he was very much about that.
Yeah,
right.
But I think Hyle Hunt's story is supposed to be it's like this is what would have happened if Jaime's arc ended here. It's like the failed Jaime arc. Just kind of like how Quentin Martell is very, it's sort of like the failed Jon Snow arc, there's a lot of, parallels between them. And it's kind of cool that if this comes true, like Jaime's like essentially fighting, like an older or a younger version of himself. I mean, maybe not literally, but as far as like experience goes.
There are these prototypes of all these different characters placed throughout the narrative. Jaime very clearly in the text thinks that Loras is basically a carbon copy of him. Dashing, good-looking, wealthy, from a prominent family. But then you have these other characters who Jamie would see himself in, and I think Hyle. It'll be interesting to see when they battle, because I think we're moving beyond theory here. We think this is actually going to really happen when we read TWOW.
Yeah,
but it's going to be really interesting to see that dialogue and that dynamic between these two characters, because will Jamie be his usual asshole self, condescending to Kyle? Will he beg him, don't do this, don't give in to her, basically meaning don't give in to Lady Stoneheart? Will he try to convince them to, let's escape, let's get out? It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because of all of the storylines going into TWOW, I'm just really unsure where the Lady Stoneheart, Brienne, Jamie story goes. I mean, yeah, you can think up several scenarios, but like the other story arcs, you could fill a page with hundreds of different possibilities, and you kind of think all of these are possible. But this one just is really hard for me to fathom where it goes.
Yeah. When I was making this, one of my big thoughts was how we get that Jamie has to do things like he has to see Cersei again. Jamie has to get resolution with Brienne, because if Jamie were to die at the Stoneheart encounter, there would be no real resolution with Brienne. And if it was in the space of this short time between the two, it would be pretty rushed. And the same with Brienne. We got to see her get resolution with Sansa. In order to do that, she has to get out of the Stoneheart situation. So this theory kind of solves that, while I also try to give it its own fulfilling plot point.
Yeah, I agree. But even still, like, even if this comes true, I don't know what happens next, because it's almost hard to see Lady Stoneheart, letting them go without.
Yeah, I was just going to make that point. So I know we have some discussion points here that we want to talk about. Let's jump to the reason Lady Stoneheart would allow a trial by combat to happen. And let's also talk about when Jaime Lannister emerges victorious, how does she just let him walk? Because, I think in her mind, this will just be her letting him go again, just like Catelyn Stark opened the cell and let him out in the main series, in A Clash of Kings or Storm of Swords, whenever she did that. I just can't fathom how that happens, and I don't think she will, but I think there's going to be something happening that she doesn't really have a choice. So why don't we talk a little bit about that, Michael? You started off by summarizing the theory that you think it will be Thoros and some of the remaining Brotherhood without banners, sort of the ones that have the moral high ground, if you will, that will sort of demand, hey, wait a minute, this is his right to demand a trial by combat. We need to let the gods decide this. And obviously there's precedence for this within the Brotherhood without banners, if you go back to Beric and the Hound.
Yeah. So one of the things that I would change to the theory, or in addition, if you will, is Thoros of Myr's role, because I kind of left him out, but he has a big influence in the Brotherhood without banners. I think that when Jaime requests a trial by combat, Stoneheart might not want to do that initially, but Thoros will be the one to be saying, this is what Beric would let us do. In Beric's name, we are going to do this. And then if Jaime wins, he can bring that up again and say, this is what Beric Dondarrion, the Lightning Lord, would want us to do. At least for now, Jaime can live. And there will likely be other Brotherhood followers who will also follow Beric and will remain true to him. Maybe Harwin will perk himself up. And Harwin could be one of the supporters, or I don't know, Greenbeard, maybe? I don't know, some of the other minor ones. But that could totally be something, and if they get more sway than Stoneheart might have no choice but to lock them in a cell for a while, and they might just be stuck there for a long time. Kevan Lannister hasn't heard anything about Jaime for a long while, so that's one possibility, I think.
Yeah, I think that, Jaime Lannister winning the trial by combat, and it really depends, in my opinion, on what she charges him with, during this trial. So if he proves his innocence by winning, that doesn't mean that she's just not going to order him locked up. And so, sort of the detente between Thoros and some of those old guard of the Brotherhood Without Banners, and then Lady Stoneheart and sort of her queen's men, if you will, or ladies' men, however you want to term them, is, okay, we're going to lock up Jaime and we'll deal with this later. So he could escape again. He and Brienne could escape again. There could be some battle that they escape during the confusion they escape. I don't think it's necessarily out of the possibility that, and there's probably a lot going on in and around Riverrun that we don't know, but they could need Jaime to go back to his camp, stand down the Lannister army, something. I mean, there could be a reason that they decide to keep him alive and keep him hostage. So I just think it's so fascinating. It's just going to be really interesting to see how this plays out.
Do you think there's a possibility that there's going to be a big split and like infighting within the Brotherhood after, like, when this goes down, like Thoros maybe taking, because I was just thinking about the show, and if the show you got to take with a grain of salt, but you like how they hang Lemoncloak in the show because he's a defector, and I wonder if the surviving Brotherhood, maybe after Lady Stoneheart is somehow off the page, they have to round these people up because they just basically have turned so vengeful and basically they lost their way, so they're the Brotherhood has to go around hanging people, which is what they're doing now. But
yeah, we could definitely see that. We could even see that as like a kind of like mini civil war going, because Riverlands doesn't have enough of that.
Yeah.
You could totally see people signing with Thoros, and then people, including like Lemoncloak, signing with Stoneheart, being pro-vengeance or anti-vengeance, or any of those.
Yeah, I mean, Thoros already sort of hints at it when he's relaying to Brienne about, when Lady Stoneheart rose, that Beric passed the kiss on to her, all of that. And I think he says something like something grimmer, something darker took Beric's place. So, Thoros is already sort of telegraphing that their mission is kind of astray here. They're on a path of destruction and vengeance, and the plotting of like a Red Wedding 2.0 could potentially have Thoros and others saying, that's not what we're about.
That's too far.
We think the Freys should have justice brought to them, but slaughtering an entire castle is just exactly what they did to you all. What are you doing?
Yep. Yeah, and like even though we'll see Freys that will be glad to go out in that fight, we'll see Aemon Frey get taken out. We'll see Raymond Frey go down. You'll also lose Perwyn Frey, probably Moria Frey, all the Frey wives, all the children, probably.
Yeah. That's
That
it seems like there's a big split coming regardless. But I wonder if it's gradual or it's like immediately like they can't agree on what to do with Jamie and like the fighting starts there and then I don't know, or if it's going to take a little more time. But it would be a good way for Brienne, Jamie, and Pod to get out if
it could provide a good out if the Brotherhood split. Then all of a sudden, hey, where our prisoners go?
Yeah, because it'd be chaos. But I mean, I could see it being still more gradual, and this is just another situation to make it or another pinpoint to whatever. And you know where I'm going with this.
Sure.
I couldn't think of the term.
Do you think there's a possibility that when Jamie is brought to Stoneheart and she decides, okay, I'm gonna execute him, or when the trial by combat is being proposed and being argued and all this, do you think there's a possibility that Brienne will step forward and sort of relay a defense of Jamie Lannister, that she traveled the road with him, she's come to understand him, she's she knows he hasn't made good decisions, but at his heart he's a good man. There's a possibility that one of the charges that Lady Stoneheart is in a crime drama, one of those prosecutors that I'm going to throw everything at this defendant because one or two things will stick and I'll get him or I'll get her or whatever. And so I'm just going to go for broke and I'm going to just make this case so completely solid as I can get it, just to get that conviction. I don't care whether, some of these points are, I have the evidence for this or not. I'm just going to do it. And so, I wonder, does she try him for killing the Mad King? And Brienne steps forward and says, no. He was going to blow up the city. He was going to kill all these people. What Jamie did was heroic. Is he going to, I definitely think she's going to throw that he conspired to kill Robb, because one of the last things she hears is Roose twisting those words of, Jamie Lannister sends his regards. I can't exactly remember any exchanges between Brienne and Jamie about the Red Wedding, but I'm guessing they happen, or they
were off page, if I recall. They kind of got the word and then got to King's Landing right
after. And no doubt she realizes he didn't conspire to carry that out because he was with me. So I just think there's the possibility that some of these facts are going to come out, and that's one of the interesting things that I've been thinking about is, again, like you said, Brett, we got to take things that happen in the show with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But Thoros and some of the Brotherhood Without Banners eventually go north in the show to fight the army of the dead. You've got the R'hllorites. They're practicing R'hllorites, many of them. So you've got the fire god coming against the demons of ice and cold. So is there that possibility that, down the road we'll see Thoros step forward and say to a King Jon Snow that, no, Jamie Lannister didn't do these things. That, this is what Brienne of Tarth said, and she's a knight, she's an honorable knight. Does someone make that case to Daenerys Targaryen when she has the Kingslayer in front of her? I mean, I just think there's so many possibilities, and
like the Hound too. I mean, they know,
Right.
there's all these rumors about the Hound. They know for a fact the Hound hasn't done any of the stuff because they're the they're the ones doing it. So
Yeah.
with the Hound's helmet. So
So that's a thought I've just kind of been thinking about.
Yeah, I could
that
definitely
down the
see that
road.
happening, especially as like a parallel, a contrast parallel to Barrack versus the Hound. When Barrack lists all these people, and then the Hound's like, "I did not kill a single one," and then Arya comes up and she's like, "You killed Micah."
Yeah.
oh, poor
And
Micah.
I could totally see Stoneheart throw all these things at Jamie, and then Brienne say, "Actually,
Yeah.
he didn't. He saved everyone by killing Eris." It could
Yeah.
also apply, if that sort of happens, that could also apply to if Jamie gets a failed redemption arc, like many believe, myself included, unfortunately. That could apply because that would set it into Jamie's head, all these things that he may have done and may not have done, and could really add to the punch if he goes the failed redemption route and leaves Brienne. That's just a further punch to the gut right there.
Jamie will eventually, because he has. I mean, he has taken on this moniker. He's hated being called Kingslayer, but he uses it early in the story as sort of a shield.
Wonder where you got that
right,
that
exactly.
advice from.
Exactly. So I think that we're not going to argue the show here because there's a lot with the Jamie Brienne that could have definitely been a little different that probably would have fixed things, but at its core, these two were not going to find some hut in the Westerlands and live their life together until the end times.
Nope.
This was always going to end tragically because
They're tragic characters in this.
They're tragic. Yeah. So,
yeah, I am sort of upset that he does not have widows well with him. I think that would be so.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just makes sense because they have basically ice there,
right? That would be,
and the name itself.
That would be. That would be really something. That Ned Stark's sword is.
I'm pretty sure it's still in Joffrey's grave.
It's in the Red Keep for Tommen.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I had to look it up.
Yeah, I think
too.
George made it. George was asked at some point where Widow's Well is, and he's like, "Oh, it would have been passed on to Tommen."
Oh, yeah, because that show confused me. But I
maybe
thought,
he wanted to give it to Jamie, but then ran into that problem.
Yeah, I thought that I could have swore though Jamie was saying something about a shorter sword or something.
I actually think it's in the show.
Oh, is it?
When you mention that, I kind of thought, does he say that to Bronn when they're sparring? Because they start their sparring in King's Landing in the show, and I kind of thought, okay, maybe that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, it could be.
But yeah, it would be. Oh, it'd be so perfect if he had that with him, especially when this trial by combat happens. That it would just be so poetic, so poetic.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about
themes?
Kind of let's talk about the breakdown of this fight. The advantages and disadvantages of Jamie and Sir Hyle. Sir Hyle has the most to lose. I mean, you could argue Jamie does too, yes, but Hyle risks his life, primarily. Secondarily, if he kills Jamie Lannister, especially if he begins to pick up on some sort of romantic vibes or kindred spirit between Brienne and Jamie, if he kills Sir Jaime in front of Brienne, I mean, that he's sort of, just ending any potential future with her.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that right there is extremely tragic, because no
Yep.
matter what he does, he's likely to lose her.
Yeah.
That's very true. I mean, he never had her, but yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
but
But
yeah, that
In
would
Hyle's
definitely
mind.
that would
the
definitely
possibility
seal-
is completely gone when you're dead, and most likely gone when, oh, you've killed my friend and the man that I was, growing to love. It's just going to be,
yeah.
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 So,
Yeah, definitely.
to your point, Brett, that Jaime doesn't have a Valyrian steel sword. I can't see this. I mean, I kind of worked in the fact that Sir Hyle is given Oathkeeper to fight with. I could see that twist. I could see Lady Stoneheart, arming her champion with the better blade, a Valyrian steel blade. I don't know that she would know that it's made from ice. But if she would find that out, then that would be an interesting point for her to say, nope, he's going to use Oathkeeper, and he's going to use it to kill Jaime Lannister.
Yeah.
It's got a lion's pommel on it. It's got red ruby eyes, so it's got the gold and the crimson of House Lannister. So, I could see her making sure that Sir Hyle is equipped with Oathkeeper. That's an advantage for Sir Hyle to have a Valyrian steel blade against Jaime, who's likely to have just castle forged steel, and using his left hand. So, I guess we think that Jaime by then will be a little better.
I think so.
Than he is.
A little better, but not necessarily by a bunch.
Right. So, what happens that Jaime's able to overcome Sir Hyle then? Like you said, Micah, is it the terrain? Is Hyle still really physically?
It's a mixture of a lot of things.
Okay.
First of all, is Hyle's condition.
Okay.
Of course,
yeah.
He's been beaten to a pulp. And he could have recovered a little bit from this, but this is the Riverlands, and his captors aren't exactly, hospitable. So they've likely not really treated him. So he's probably still got a lot of, exhaustion, and that does take a toll on a person. As someone who's worked in retail 5 days straight doing carts, exhaustion can do a lot. And that's nothing compared to what Hyle's going through, but that can do a lot. And of course, the terrain, it's probably going to be all wet and muddy. And then I think that we could see Jaime take a bit from Brienne here, and Jaime could let Hyle approach him and make counter moves and parries. Let Hyle get close, so as then Jaime can swing around him and go for a killing blow towards the neck or something.
Yeah, I think Hyle's gonna. I think he's probably gonna be a little bit delirious too. And Jaime's, other than his missing hand, I mean, he's well fed, top of his game right now, thinking clearly. I think in Hyle's normal state, no contest, but I think him underestimating Jaime is going to really, I think that's going to be a big driving force too.
Yeah.
Along with the condition.
It's only a day's ride from Pennytree, according to Brienne. So.
Ooh, so it's like.
And so Lady Stoneheart's not going to let Jaime show up at that camp and then hold him for 3 days. I mean, she's going to immediately get to this trial. So you're right, Brett. That's a good point. That he's coming. Jaime's. Like you said, other than his hand, Jaime is in the best condition right now. Probably he's been since he fled King's Landing in a Game of Thrones after he fought Ned Stark.
Yeah.
Or fought with Ned Stark's men. So yeah, that's a really good point that he's coming fresh and clean and well fed and
I wonder, if Hyle, like, he could be, suffering from a concussion. I mean, and that's that would,
there's a lot they could have done to Hyle. He could have broken bones.
Yeah.
He could have anything happen to him. And George writes these fights in a realistic way to where we could see Hyle simply suffer from said concussion, cough, trip, cough up blood, and give Jaime an opening.
And I wonder if Jaime's going to slay him with Oathkeeper too. Like, somehow he's going to get the sword and like
possible.
I don't know, just a thought, because
Kyle's going to be, if he's physically hurt, mentally hurt, he's going to be in a very, as we talked about, he's going to be in a very desperate situation, because if he doesn't win, then there's no chance of ever marrying Brienne. He has to win this. It's his life or nothing for him. And so all that combined, this desperate rage to win, this physical exhaustion, this malnourishment, this concussions, these, just all of this is going to be a factor to where I think we're right. He's going to vastly underestimate Jaime, and he's going to greatly overestimate himself and his skills. And I think you'll get a sense in the beginning of the battle that Jaime's kind of off. He's thrown off balance. He showed up. He didn't expect being thrown into a trial by combat.
Yeah.
First of all, I didn't fucking expect to see an undead Catelyn Stark standing there, and
he's probably gonna get there and be like, Thoros?
Right. What's wrong with you? Ulf is. Who the fuck is that lady? Yeah, I mean, and then I think as he gets a little more comfortable with watching Hyle fight and all this, then old Jaime is going to kick back in, that he's going to adapt. Yeah. Yes. He's going to adapt, and he's going to watch, and he's going to, eventually strike Hyle Hunt down. So the perceived disadvantages that Jaime has really aren't there, aren't as prominent as I think what we think.
Yeah. I do wonder too if, I think Hyle is going to also want to battle Jaime, because it's his life. He's probably jealous. He's probably jealous. And he probably doesn't think Brienne's going to kill Jaime. He probably knows this and he's like, well, if she doesn't kill Jaime, I'm dead. So I'm going to have to do it.
Yeah. And sorry, Travis, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say that's a really great point. If she won't fight and she won't kill Jaime, then all four of them are going to die. Pod's going to die. He's going to die. Brienne's going to die. Jaime's going to die. Some of this is part of this decision by Hyle is just going to be like, you're risking killing us all, Brienne. Let me have a chance at him. I'll kill him. To save his own skin and save her skin and Pod's skin. He's going to look at this like it's a good choice. It's the right choice. It's the right thing to do. And he's probably going to, sit there and think, this is Jaime Lannister. This is the Kingslayer. This is the family that's fucked Westeros over. This is the family that, yes, Catelyn Stark is absolutely within her right.
Yeah.
To have this guy killed, to try this guy, so I think he's going to be thinking about that too. Like, are you crazy, Brienne? Why you could cut this guy? I've seen you fight. You could cut this guy down in a minute.
And I guess we haven't really talked about the elephant in the room, but I mean, I would be horrified looking at Catelyn and seeing that. Like, if that was like, that would probably be like, okay, I don't want to die by that, because
right,
exactly.
Like all all your superstitions start kicking in. Like, is she gonna devour my soul?
Right. I mean, she's pale. She
clawed her cheeks open.
Her cheeks are ripped open. Her throat's a gash. Her eyes are just surrounded by like a pool of red and raw flesh. She has a fucking translator. Someone is translating everything she says because it's just, like, yes, I would freak me the fuck out. Like, if I saw that, I would just, what do you want me to do? Just tell me what you need me to do, that way, and I will do it. Just leave me alone.
Yeah. And then I'm going to ride 300 miles in the opposite direction.
That's why Rickon's on Skagos.
Wow. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's a great point. And either way, if Brienne wins or loses, Kyle's not going to get what he wants, which is Tarth. Besides Brienne, he wants Tarth, and now he's not going to get it. So he's a knight. He's a Westerosi knight, so he's going to see the glory. And the only glory that he's going to have left here is a chance at taking down the Kingslayer himself.
Yes. Because that would be a song. That
it would be a song.
Yep.
A tragic song. He reached for the stars and fell.
Ooh.
Yep. Some old John Connington thrown in there.
Yeah.
He reached for the sapphire and fell.
There, yeah.
Yeah.
The trial by combat has happened. Sir Hyle Hunt is dead. Jaime Lannister has killed him. We're not really sure how this will all resolve. What happens to Jaime and Brienne with this now part of their story? Will Brienne look at Jaime differently? Will Jaime look at Brienne differently? Like, what's y'all's thinking with that?
See, I don't know, because I wonder if Jaime's gonna feel betrayed a little bit. If Brienne didn't like give him a little heads up beforehand, but I couldn't see him riding straight there, and
yeah, it's one thing if she says, "Look, okay, here's what we're walking into. Here's my plan." They work out a plan. They go in there, swords a-blazing. But, Mikey, you make a good point in the theory that Brienne of Tarth gave her word. Her word means that Pod and Sir Hyle will not be executed. So I think you're right, Brad. I think he's going to feel betrayed by her because she brought him into this situation without any advance warning. And I'm sure she's going to look at him and say, I am so sorry. What am I supposed to do? So yeah, I think there's definitely going to be a big divide there going forward. And that's another important thing that, that doesn't happen in the show. So there's going to be this divide between Brienne and Jaime over this, not just the killing of Sir Hyle, but the fact that she tricked him.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how big it'll be. I think there definitely will be an initial divide, but I think that the conversation they had about you swear and swear, and if you're forsaking one oath for another, I think she might bring that up and be like, you were right. Totally. Yeah. But
yeah, no, it's a great point. Jaime could definitely feel betrayed by this, but he also might get some more conflicting feelings because he doesn't have enough. of like if Brienne comes up and she's like, look, Jamie's not at fault for killing the king because he saved all these people.
True.
She could be standing up for him as a way to, defend him. And that could maybe, if he's not being too much of an ass, make Jamie rethink a little bit. But yeah, I do think he'll feel betrayed, and then he'll also have questions as to who's this dude lying at my feet? What'd he mean to you, Brienne?
Right.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll be a little.
He'll wonder if what was Hyle doing here? Was he sacrificing himself?
Right.
To save Brienne? Is Brienne still worth that much to sacrifice? That could be a question we could see Jamie wondering about.
Yeah.
As for Brienne, she could be wondering the same thing herself. After all, she just betrayed Jamie. Then here comes Hyle, and he just potentially sacrificed himself.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's why it's called a tragedy. A tragedy of 3 nights.
Yep.
It's one of the things I wanted to bring up because Travis, when I was first putting together this theory, I was talking in the non-Slack with you and a couple of the other guys. I was like, one of the things I wanted to bring up was how Brienne and Jamie and Hyle's arcs all intertwined with the themes of knighthood and chivalry and what it actually means to be a knight. And with Hyle doing this, you can get several points of view from it. A huge nuance of, did he do this out of jealousy, or was he intentionally sacrificing himself here because he had nothing left? And I think it's going to be less ambiguous to the reader as to what exactly Hyle did and why he did it. And I think that'll be the point.
Yeah, I know that part of your theory where you say you think it's going to be from Brienne's perspective. Yeah, I thought, that's probably, I would say that's most likely. It would be cool to see a Jamie one, but I think it just, to leave it more ambiguous, it would have to be Brienne wondering. And yeah.
Much better if it's left to the imagination. Was this Sir Hyle reaching for glory and failing to grasp it? Was this the only logical thing he saw? Was this him saying, I will defend you, my lady. I will, because I think an important point here is that it's quite possible that this trial is a combination, not just a trial by combat for Jamie, but a way to prove Brienne's innocence as well. She says it in Brienne 8. She charges Brienne of Tarth with treason. Here you are, dressed in armor paid for by the Lannisters. Here you are, carrying a sword created by the Lannisters with Lannister collars, a Lannister sigil. You're bearing a letter from Tommen Baratheon that says you are serving his business. The sick beauty of this is that whoever wins, Lady Stoneheart gets to prove that one of these people is a traitor to her and to her family and to her cause.
Yeah.
And it's awful. It's terrible. But Hyle Hunt could look at this and say, my lady, talking to Brienne, my lady, you have to defend yourself. She's going to kill you. You have to defend yourself to save yourself. This isn't about Jaime Lannister. This is about saving him or killing him. This is about defending you. And so I think it's just it perfectly encapsulates, like you said, Michael, all these arcs that kind of run together. The idea of knighthood and chivalry and virtue and vows, and the fact that they just continually
As
knock against each other and bounce off each other, and one is the complete opposite of the other, and there's so much hypocrisy baked into the system. It's just too good not to happen.
Yeah.
No, that's one of the ways that I look at it whenever I'm like factoring these theories, or even when I'm in my own writings as a fantasy writer. I see all these characters come together, and I'm like, how are these arcs going to merge? And what will we see come from it? And whenever I see how George is writing, I look at it in terms of what is the song here? How is this going to unfold with the larger picture? And it's going to connect all these dots in this great big constellation. And this is one of my favorite things I wrote. This is my first major interaction with the fandom, where I'm like, here's this thing I thought of. Hope everyone likes it. I'm really glad that we get to talk about it like this.
Yeah, it's great. It really is great, and it's not just great that because you're now a co-host on this podcast, but I remember when we were working on the show notes back for episode 27 last year, and I can't remember if you messaged it to us or something, or mentioned this, and we were like, what? Wait, what? And then, of course, when we talked about it on the episode, I was just like, whoa, I never picked up on that. And in fact, you had a lot of people in the fandom, people who've been involved in the fandom and analyzing the text for years. They're like, oh, I never saw that. I never thought of that. One of the reasons you picked up on it is because you love minor characters, and that's sort of the door that opened in that episode with us last year, is that we were talking about minor characters, and when you begin to look into these minor characters, you just find this rich trove of information that really informs the larger picture of A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah, I think too, like, they tend to get a little I had the word. They aren't, I forgot the word. Underanalyzed. They tend to go under, like some of these plots, because they're so messy. They go 100 different directions, but when you find something like this, it's like that seems the direction it should. Seems like it'll go that direction. At least that portion. Now, afterwards, whatever happens after this trial, no idea.
Yeah, it's up for grabs. Anyone can take that part.
Oh yeah,
I don't.
That's a tangle of webs that, who knows? I mean, just who knows how that's gonna.
Like I said, that just depends on how other plot lines go too. I mean, how that's gonna.
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing again, to kind of, unless you all have something else to say, to kind of wrap it up on our discussion here. Go ahead, Brett.
One more thing.
Okay.
When do you think this is going to happen in the book? Because I tend to think it's going to happen fairly early on. Because
first third is my guess. I'd say first quarter or first third, shortly after the battles.
I think maybe the first fourth of the book. Maybe.
Yeah.
It might.
I was going to say, I kind of feel like you've got to have at least one. I don't know if it would be from. I'm assuming it'd be from Jamie's perspective. One chapter of them traveling, and I kind of think he'll kind of trip Brienne up, questioning her. And she'll be like, oh, well, I found the hound here. And, there'll just be something kind of off. She'll be kind of nervous. She'll be like, let's go, well, should I wear my sword? Should we come in from behind? If we come in from behind, I could potentially, fight the Hound while you deliver the killing blow and we free Sansa and, all these things. And, there's going to be something off.
I like that.
Jamie's going to sort of pick up on, okay, there's something wrong here. I don't know what's wrong, but it's going to be too late for him to realize that, oh, okay, she is luring me into a trap.
I could definitely see all of this happening in one chapter where they're traveling and then they meet the Brotherhood. Stoneheart calls for trial, and then we get trial by combat, and it could end with Hyle's death. And I could certainly see it from either Jaime or Brienne's perspective. But I could also see it split into 2 chapters with a reintroduction to our favorite characters of Jaime and Brienne, traveling, meet up with the Brotherhood at the end, and then shortly after we get another chapter, this time from Brienne. And it's the battle and immediate aftermath, going into whatever next plot point happens.
Yeah, I lean toward that chapter of traveling and slowly realizing what's happening, and probably not ending there. Probably ending with the Stoneheart reveal to Jaime and maybe his demand of a trial by combat. And then the next chapter would be the trial itself and perhaps the escape. They might escape amidst the chaos of it. Who knows? You just don't know. But I lean toward it being, George could do it in one chapter, but it would be a humongous chapter in my opinion. Chapter. It would be a very meaty chapter.
Preview chapter in terms of size.
Yeah.
That's
all I got.
Yeah, I was just going to say to wrap up. I think there's so many theories in this fandom, and some of them make sense, and some of them, lack sense, and some of them are like, yeah, I could see that. But this one to me doesn't have that but. It feels right.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like something that would appear in the text because it's got all those elements of tragedy, and it leaves you thinking, what good was that? Like, here's this guy dead, and now there's this divide between Jaime and Brienne, and I just think it feels right. It just feels right, and that's why I think it's. I think we're going to turn the page in The Winds of Winter next year, and we're going to see this, and it's going to be awesome.
I agree. I completely 100% agree.
And if it's not there, we're going to drive to Santa Fe and we're going to say, what the fuck, George?
I'm going to go to there myself and be like,
this
guy, if this happened.
This guy in Idaho wrote a better outcome than you did. What the fuck, man?
Like,
whatever.
Do you not take ideas from your fans?
Exactly. Do you not steal from us, please?
No, I'll use it as proof of me being eligible to finish it for George.
Oh, there you go. There you
go. No, but
whatever George writes, writes, it's going to be great.
Oh,
but
yeah, definitely.
This is just, I think, just too good not to happen. So I really hope it comes true.
Thank you, guys.
So thank you for visiting Planetos Podcast. Please rate and review us on iTunes and listen to us on a podcasting platform near you. Follow us on Twitter at Planetos Podcast and like our Facebook and Instagram pages. Until next time, we'll see you around Planetos. Good night.
All right.
Have a good night, everyone.